Thanks for doing this, Aaron. Really lovely to have you on the podcast today. A lot of people have been asking me to get you on the podcast, not only for the swearing that you do, but also, what you talk about, in terms of how you've been able to impact the industry. So tell us what you do.
So me personally, I'm the managing director of Your Personal Training. So Your PT is the UK's largest kind of personal training brand, but we look after the management, recruitment, development, retention, and obviously education of personal trainers. So obviously our objective is to get those personal trainers as busy as possible, make them as successful as possible, so that the trainers are looking after the gym members. So trainers look after the members, we're looking after the trainers, everybody's happy.
You use the word retention. We all absolutely hate that word because nobody is able to do that. It's like the trainers just slip through your hands. I mean, it's so difficult to manage trainers. And I've been having multiple conversations with people who run gyms. The average age, and you know better than me, the average age of a trainer lifespan in a gym is close to about 4-6 weeks, 6 months. I don't even know what it is because the number changes from a gym chain to gym chain. I can tell you that there are some of the gym chains which are struggling with 4 weeks. So it's like a revolving door.
Yeah.
When you say the word retention, what do you do differently that you're able to retain people?
Well, the way that we kind of look at retention is, and we kind of went through when we've done any development or anything with a team, any training with a team that does the recruitment and obviously mentors the PTs, is the retention of a trainer actually starts during the recruitment phase. So making sure you're getting the right type of people in. Yes, they have to be qualified and all the rest of it, but making sure you've got the right types of personalities, people with the right work ethic, people that are passionate about fitness. Because there is a lot of people that are in fitness because it sounds cool, it's a cool job, they can kind of brag to their friends or whatever. And there's some people that just have no idea, they've done no research on it or anything like that as well. So, we get a lot of applicants come through and we kind of look at how many actually get through the entire process, which is 4.6% that get through from applying to actually us selecting them to go in the gym as a self-employed PT.
And this is as a personal trainer. So as a personal trainer, that's your hit ratio.
Yeah, they're the ones that we select. So they're the ones that we believe are right for the clubs that they apply for, the ones that obviously we work with. And it varies. I mean, obviously we have a 10-stage recruitment process which is completed in less than 7 days. So we do it very quickly. We've been recruiting PTs for 15 plus years now. So we've kind of figured it out. We don't ever have it perfect. We're always trying to get that extra kind of 0.5%, that 0.1%. And focus on what trainers want. So obviously the big thing for us is that if we can give them what they want, like what's in it for me, when they're looking at gym to gym to gym, we know how to make sure that we can get the best trainers that are either currently in the market looking for other jobs or people coming into the industry, making sure we get the right trainers for our club partners and how to do it very quickly, because that's also part of it as well.
So tell me, what's the actual number? What's the average lifespan of a personal trainer when he's self-employed within the industry?
In the industry, it's anecdotally everyone says 6 months. It's between 5 and 7 depending on where you are. Obviously, if you're working in bigger cities or in your rural areas and things like that, it can kind of depend. But between 5 and 7 months in general. Our PTs sit at 28.6 months.
Wow.
That's outside of London. Inside of London, it's 31.3. So our trainers in the bigger cities are actually staying longer than the more rural areas, despite obviously what people have said in terms of members sort of leaving bigger cities and moving out to more rural areas, things like that. We're still seeing a strong retention rate. And like you said, we've heard the same stories of quite recently gyms saying, we can keep PTs for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how you can lose them that quickly. I really don't.
I have no idea.
The selection process must be fucking terrible.
Yeah. No, and I think selection. So in my previous avatar, I used to be in human resources, and my PhD is in the thesis for my PhD is called multi-mode talent acquisition for retention. So, like you rightly said, I think the entire process of retention starts from the recruitment stage and onboarding. So, recruitment and onboarding play a very important role.
Yeah.
Coming back to how did you get to start this? Let's understand Aaron as a person. How did you? What's your background? What did you do? Where did you go to school? What did you study? Let's go back to, your entire life. Let's Go through that.
So I was what is lovingly referred to as like a military brat.
Nice.
So my father was in the military, so I kind of
Okay,
travelled
now
around the schools, all that kind of
makes
stuff.
it two of us.
Yeah, so well, there we go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, my dad was in the army.
So I went to, before I was 12 years old, I went to 9 schools, different countries. Obviously, some of them I was on military bases, I was out in other countries, or I kind of went to schools nearby. Ended up in South Norfolk, like towards kind of Norwich and places like that. Then from there, obviously went through, I was bored at school. I wanted to be a professional footballer. I was in various academies, clearly not good enough, which was obviously like the first failure in my life, which is quite annoying. I'm very competitive and always want to kind of be the best at everything that I do, which comes with its own flaws anyway, annoyingly, but I know what they are, but it doesn't stop them existing. Decided I wanted to go, I was going to go and be a solicitor. So I was like, I need to go and get some UCAS points. I want to go to university because I messed up high school because I got bored. Couldn't get on with football, relied on that too much, didn't pay attention in school. So I was a straight A student until about year 8, year 9. And then just, yeah, found various things, you know, a bit more interesting playing sport. Girls, I got more interested in at that point as well, I think. And then went to college for about 6 months. The Royal Marines came in and did like a couple of days with us, and then that was my brain switched. I was gone, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. I was there for a few years, got several injuries. I've fractured femurs, twisted diaphragm, dislocated shoulder, broken ribs, damaged various things, smashed my face in all sorts of places. And
You still have a pretty face.
it's not bad. I think yeah. I don't know what they call it, 18 like milk, I think is the thing that we kind of gets referred to, isn't it? But yeah, so I kind of fell into fitness after, like, you know, being injured and wanted to kind of learn how to look after my body. And while I was doing the course, which I did with Premier, which was at their head office in Wiltshire many years ago, while it was still around, did my personal training course. And on my course, I was with lots of other people. Kind of thought like I would quite like to do this for a living. Became a personal trainer. I think I finished my course on the Friday, started self-employed as a PT on Monday. Had various options, so I could have gone down the employed route. I didn't. You know, when you get told what to do pretty much 24 hours a day, it gets a bit boring after a while.
Yeah.
So running my own business, choosing my own hours, deciding what type of clients I wanted to work with, where I wanted to work, and everything else was appealing to me. So I did that with Fitness First for just over a year, and then I joined Your Personal Training when they kind of expanded out into where I was living, self-employed PT, and then kind of progressed through really. So I became like a PT mentor. I was kind of already helping PTs in my club because, you know, you build up a relationship, a camaraderie with other trainers. Yeah. You don't want them to become a statistic. When I was at Fitness First, we were in like an 1,800 member club, and I was number 23. Far too many in there, and that was a revolving door system, and it was a bit tribal as well. So there was like, you know, us 3 would be over there, and there'd be 4 or 5 trainers over there, and then there was employed and there was self-employed, and it was just it was just a mess. It wasn't really that fun, and there was a lot of kind of backstabbing and all that kind of stuff as well. And we just sat there thinking like, we just want to run a business, just want to have a career, want a somewhat easy life but enjoyable life at the same time, and you couldn't really get it because you couldn't really relax. So Your Personal Training came along. I started with them in September 2009. So this year would be in about 6 weeks' time, will be my 14th year at Your PT. Wow. Kind of started working with personal trainers, kind of mentoring them, sort of helping them out, I guess, kind of supporting them on the side.
In what capacity did you join Your PT?
As a self-employed PT.
Okay.
So I just kind of moved from one gym to another. I saw there was a bigger opportunity. The club that I was in was Bury St Edmunds Leisure Centre, so an Abbeycroft Leisure Club, who's actually still a Your Personal Training gym partner now. After like 14 years later, we're still with them. And again, just kind of, there was no personal training going on. They'd never really had it before, so I thought, like, I've got a year's experience. I've kind of sort of know what I'm doing. In an empty market, I can probably do pretty well pretty quickly. And did just that. Then the team started to build. They needed a bit more support because more gyms were expanding. So I was kind of supporting other trainers. I wasn't being paid, and then I was being paid. Became like a regional PT manager, and that kind of started to expand. So it went through the entire region. And then it was like, can you go down to Essex? And we've now got gyms in the Midlands. Can you go to the Midlands? And we've now got gyms in the North. Can you do some of those as well? So I ended up as a PT manager. I was still personal training at the time, about 20 hours a week, but I was coaching and recruiting PTs between Southend and Preston and kind of everything in between. Quite a big catchment area. And I've kind of explained before, I was like, this isn't sustainable. Spoke to James, obviously, as my business partner and ops director at Your PT, and some other managers at the time. And I was like, we've hit breaking point here. We're going to kind of, the standards are going to drop off. We need to kind of do something. So I had an idea about creating like an additional layer of support and managers where, you know, the regional directors, as it were, would oversee the economy, as it were, take control of the recruitment, and there'd be more localized PT managers that would work underneath us, be trained by us. Did that for a few years. COVID came along, went through that. And then when we came out of the first lockdown, there was an opportunity for myself and James and our business partners, Jamie and Simon, to form like an MBO essentially, and take over Your Personal Training. Bought the company out, made a ton of changes immediately, and then went into a second and third lockdown, which was really fun for a new business. Essentially taking on something that had shrunk quite a bit naturally because self-employed PTs had nowhere to go. They couldn't go to the gym, they couldn't work, they couldn't do anything really. And we've been doing that for 3 years next week.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah, sort of.
No, and I know one of the things that you said, I honestly didn't know that you started with Your PT in 2009. And that's the beauty, you know, of success. People will come back and, like a lot of people in the industry tell me, you know what, Aaron's been an overnight success. I just realized that overnight has been fucking 14 years.
Yeah.
2009 is when you started.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
Yeah.
And it's been non-stop. And I've seen, so,
Yeah.
you know, people who have, you know, obviously we have a lot of common friends. And whenever I speak to Jamie, he says, you know, Aaron is fucking non-stop. Absolutely fucking relentless. When it comes to work, you know, non-stop, it just goes on and on and on. Doesn't matter. Weekends, weekdays, time of the day, what time zone, doesn't matter. In fact, I was, you know, Abhi was on the podcast before this, and you know, and I was having a discussion with him offline.
I love Abhi.
Yeah, he's a fucking gem, you know. And what I like about him is he's extremely honest in terms of, you know, what he says, and he calls a spade a spade. You know, he won't offend you, which we often do, but he won't offend you. But he will call a spade still with, you know, the way whatever he believes, he'll say that. And again, one of the things he mentioned was that you as a person, Aaron, you're making a lot of difference in the industry. What you're trying to solve is a problem we've been discussing. You know, even in World Active, the forum, one of the biggest problems that we're facing is that personal trainers, who are the actual backbone of this industry, you know, we've lost 56% of them during COVID, and a lot of them have not come back. And the reason they've not come back is, if you remember the panel discussion that was happening, you know, with me, Abhi, and a few people at Elevate. You know, one of the points that Abhi made was very, very valid, where he said that, you know, you're competing with an industry which is, you know, you're competing with hospitality, right? Which pays a lot more. You can charge, you can afford. I still remember he gave an example that, you know, if you're in London and you were charging £5 for a pint, you can charge £7.50 now, and people will still buy it.
Yeah.
We've not been able to do that in the industry, and which is where it becomes less and less attractive for people to stay in. So we've lost people to retail, we've lost people to some of the other industries, hospitality, a lot of them have been lost, and they're not come back. What you're doing now is building a sustainable lifestyle for a fitness trainer. You know, most of us in this industry are passionate about what we do. We're not here for the money alone. Yes, money is 100% a part of it. It has to be a part of the equation, otherwise it doesn't make sense. But looking at you keep yourself fit, right? You're not a businessman who owns a fitness PT company, is himself out of shape and is just in it for money. We all have passion. We all are disciplined in terms of the workouts that we do. You know, the way we treat our bodies. We're very particular about that. And having caffeine after 4 o'clock. So that's bad. So point being, you know, the contribution of people like you who are creating now an opportunity for people to create careers. I haven't seen a single personal trainer leave this industry because he's a bad personal trainer or doesn't understand anatomy. I've seen people lose this industry because of their not being able to get business.
Yeah.
Nobody's coaching people on how to build
Yeah.
their own business. And I think you're doing a commendable job of that. Can you run us through what you do and how did you come up with this? So keep the fitness industry out of this equation. The reason I was trying to draw a parallel was because both of us are from the same industry. Is more to do with the fact that, a lot of industries, a lot of people go through problem statements, which become like at an industry level, they become problems. Like in our case, workforce is a massive problem. How did you, kind of turn it on its head? When I heard your model the first time, I just thought to myself, why is it that somebody else has not come up with this idea?
Yeah.
So how did you come up with this idea? And especially at a time when, when COVID hit and you completely changed the model and you changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
What made you do this?
Well, the foundation of the kind of model in terms of like how your personal trainer looks after PTs has always been there. So it's one of the main reasons I moved across. So it was like, you're not going to sort of overpower the gym floor with tons of PTs. There's more support available. There's more background resources and things like that. But it kind of reached like a stagnant point where it wasn't going any further. And no matter what James and I tried to do, obviously we weren't the owners. If we wanted to kind of progress something, we had an idea that would improve anything, even 1%, 10%, 50% for the personal trainers, because we didn't own the business, there was like a red tape. It was like, it would cost this, it would cost that. Like, and it's understandable, like that's how some people want to run their business. They're happy with what it was doing. Yeah. I'm not, I kind of constantly looking at advancements, whether that's a parallel business like the education side of things that we do now, or whether it's what else can we do? Like, what can we do for the PTs? What would make their life a little bit easier, even if it saves them a bit of time, or even if it kind of helps them, with their marketing or their kind of, dare we say it, sales is obviously a dirty word when it comes to personal trainers. Nobody likes it.
But that's the biggest problem.
It is to a degree. I think there's, the biggest problem is kind of the communication and everything. The kind of human side is, we've had a lot of personal trainers that have come to us and they've done online courses, very little kind of interaction with other people. They've done their assessment has been recorded in their front room where their mum's bicep curling a tin of baked beans, and that's what they're being assessed on. And apparently that's okay. We're allowing that as an industry. That's perfectly fine, but that's another conversation for us. But that was kind of allowed to happen. But they were the people that were doing those courses. We see something in them, and they are teachable, and they have got a willingness to learn. And they go, look, I know I don't know anything about this. This is where I need the most help. That's what we kind of focus on. So yes, we help them with the anatomy and physiology, kind of progress their training and allow them to know how to program, what their scope of practice is, what their scope of practice isn't, what they can and can't do. If they want to go into nutrition, give them a kind of guideline of how they're going to go into it. But everything else, kind of taking care of it, the admin side, the business side, understanding profit and loss, how to do a consultation, because there's like 15 different types of consultations you can do just off the top of your head. So how do I do each one? How do I do it over the phone? How do I do it over Zoom? How do I do it face to face? They're all a little bit different in terms of how you communicate and what you do. So having to understand that from a personal trainer's perspective, and it's something that we always kind of look at, is rather than looking at a process or what you do for somebody like some sort of like mad scientist that's looking from the outside thinking, right, if I change this or change this, surely it will work. We can put ourselves in their shoes, like, well, what would we have wanted to make our lives easier when we were PTs? And then we kind of, throw it around with the team, the PT support managers, the regional directors, because they're all personal trainers, they've all been PTs. It's a prerequisite for coming into the management team. You have to have been a successful self-employed PT. If you've done stuff before that, fantastic. That's just a massive bonus. But for a personal trainer coming into the industry, you don't want to learn from somebody that sold sofas at DFS, which is like a real anecdote, by the way. That's what people thought a PT mentor was at one point, someone that had never done the bloody course, let alone anything else, but was good at sales. Like, we can teach sales to anybody. Like, you can teach a chimp how to sell something. It's not that difficult. But to have a product that isn't physical, like, you can't just say, like, with a bottle of water, you can say, right, here's a bottle of water, this is £2. You can't do that with personal training. It's almost, I used to say to my clients, I'm essentially trying to sell you a hope and dream here. Like, you want to look a particular way. I'm telling you I can help you do that, but I don't have like a physical roadmap, a perfect timeline. I can't tell you how long it's going to take. You just have to trust that I have the knowledge and I have your best interests at heart. And doing that is difficult.
That's a very, very interesting point you've raised. you're trying to sell a product to somebody which is a lot dependent on the customer himself. You know, if your client is a dickhead, he's a dickhead. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You know, you'll try your best to do it. I mean, say you get me as your client. I mean, God help you. But if you get me as a client, and you tell me not to eat something, and you tell me to. So you tell me not to eat X, Y, and Z at A, B, and C times, and I fucking keep doing that all the time. And I'll come back and say, you know what, I look exactly the same. Obviously, I'm going to look exactly the same. As a personal trainer, we control, if you're doing 12 sessions a month, you're controlling 1 hour every alternate day. And you expect to get results and not follow your discipline. So it's a very difficult, it's very difficult to kind of make sure client gets the right kind of results. Now, how do you make sure that as a personal trainer, so one aspect obviously is, you know, getting them the right kind of sales, and sales skills are difficult to develop, right? And it's not selling, it's more like counseling. You have to tell a person what you can do, and you don't have an actual, you know, it's not a one size fit all. Every single customer is different. Everybody's a different lifestyle. So it's a fairly complex and complicated product. And most trainers, after, you know, and I can say that this with, you know, all the due respect to every single, qualification provider, service provider, you know, and I have some good friends there. Nobody is focusing on the tougher skill, which is the actual people skills. You know, you're focusing on anatomy, standards, standardization, all those things, but we're not focusing on what will make a trainer successful. Right? Now, how do you make sure? So and I know we had this conversation before where, you know, you said the actual training came in as an afterthought because you realized, you know, you backward integrate everything now. You know, and that's so beautiful because now you're not dependent on somebody providing you trainers, and you've done an absolute sweet fuck all job of getting them certified, and they could be certified by some training company completely done online with those baked beans, you know, and possibly comes to you as a personal trainer, certified fucking dickhead who's going to come and tell you, you know what, I need to make $5,000 a month because that's what I've been told when I was doing this training. And you changed that and you said, I'll do the training myself. Can you run us through this journey when you changed the business model from just managing the personal trainers? What made you do that? B, how did it impact your business? C, what is the learning that somebody can take from in their own industry from this step that you took?
The motivation for it, I mean, for years we've worked with various training providers. We kind of were still very selective about who we worked with because obviously we would look at our own teams and go, right, where have they come from? So those trainers are very good. Is there a correlation between where they've come from and how good they are as a PT? How industry ready they are, which is probably the big issue that we had. Over the years, we've approached every large and medium-sized training provider that we worked with at the time, because obviously we used to use them and obviously offer them recruitment sort of solutions and stuff as well for their graduates. Most of them, which don't exist anymore, those training providers. But one of the things we would always say is like, look, this is what's missing when your trainers come. Like, they don't know how to communicate. They've got no business acumen and things like that. We can help you. We'll white label a course. They don't even have to know it's us. Just let us help you, so it will help us in return. And some of them you get quite far down the line and they go, yeah, we're going to do this, or do you know what, we're going to start offering this to our trainers or whatever. And then 4 or 5 weeks later, they'd revert back to type. And then it got to a point, it was like, we just got pissed off. That's the only way to put it. James and I were like, what are we doing? We're putting all this time and effort to work with these partners who were not partners because it's not a reciprocal relationship. Like, we were doing things and then they were just doing whatever the fuck they wanted. They weren't even using what we were giving them, even though it's completely valuable. So the first thing we did is take the stuff that we gave them and we created a 26 module business course, which we had accredited by SIMSPA. So it's got as many CPD points as you're allowed to give for that course. It's free to all of our personal trainers. So 7 of the modules is about the consultation process. Pre, post, prep, different types of consultations, how to follow up, everything else you can think of, and then onboarding as well. So that's 7 modules out of 26 is on a consultation process, and it's broken down into those. And then we have them we brought in communications experts to kind of talk about communication. And then we had nutrition and other things as well, which we would touch on, but it was more about, this is your scope of practice. So these are the basics, this is as far as you can take it, this is what you can do as a PT. Anything else, you have to go down this avenue. And we gave that free to all of our personal trainers. Then we actually sat in the other room, myself, Jamie and Simon, and then we just thought, we just need to do it ourselves. We need to have a look at it. So it was kind of like, Aaron, go and have a look at that for us. And then I came back probably 3 or 4 weeks later and said, look, this is how it's done. This is who we should go and get accredited by. This is, all the feedback I have said, Active IQ is the best awarding organisation. This is what we have to do. Then we need an academy director. Then we need a team of tutors, and this is how it's going to work. So they were like, great, off you go. So then I would go and do that, and obviously went all the way through that. And the idea was to create like a farm-to-table solution. So we would train our own trainers, bring them through, and then they would go into your personal training, and they would be industry ready. So yes, they do the level 2 and level 3, but then there's another £2,000 worth of CPD that they would do immediately afterwards. So foundational business, advanced business courses, then there was stuff on nutrition, there was stuff on programming and things like that to kind of improve what they were doing. So obviously when you do your level 2 and 3, you do have to follow the awarding organisation, you do have to tick some boxes. You can't always add a lot of extra in because it will detract from what you're supposed to be doing with that. So we did a lot of additional stuff. And that's where we kind of took it from there. And then that's just gone and gone and gone. And because we're now in the education space, we have an understanding of that. That's actually helped us more with understanding the personal trainers. So when they come through, what is actually missing? Is there anything else that we need to fill a gap with? And it was kind of a parallel business essentially, because one feeds into the other. And the existing personal trainers can then go and get additional CPD. But what we've done with the CPD that we offer is made it relevant to PTs, things that are actually going to be useful for you in your career, like the niches and the areas that we know personal trainers benefit from, that improves their skill set, but also is a demand from the consumer, things they're interested in, corrective exercise, nutrition, that sort of thing. Pre and postnatal was one of the most sought after courses. So we made those available to trainers and told them why we made them available. And then we made them half the price everybody else does it at, because education should be accessible and affordable, not like it can be in some situations.
So, you spoke about Active IQ and you took those standards. So you've done the right backward integration where you said, okay, I'll go to the right person, use their strengths, not reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, try to get control of whatever you can control. So there is a regulatory body which kind of says this is what needs to go in, and you've tried to kind of put in layers on top of that and add value to people. You made a very good point here where you said that, things that trainers need are relevant for them. If I were to tell you, 90% of the trainers I have worked with absolutely fucking hate anatomy. They just don't like it. Right? But they have to learn it because it's part of the curriculum.
Of course.
And it's required, right? The regulatory body says is you study it. But every single trainer I know has come back and told me, how do I get more clients? How do I sell? The toughest part of the business, unfortunately, is to be able to sell. People walk into that, trainers walk into the gym floor with stars in their eyes, us expecting $5,000 and $10,000, which they would want to earn monthly, which is possible, but it's not going to happen day one. And it's almost like a hostile environment. So you walk into a place, you've got trainers who've been working there for the last 10 years. You just recently graduated. Yes, you love fitness, you love gym, you look good, everything, but you are fucking scared to speak to anybody. Nobody teaches you how to talk to a stranger and try to sell them something. People are actually scared of selling. They feel, but they don't understand. The customer needs it, and unless you talk to people, so it's an art which is evolved, and this I think is one of the most important courses that we require in the industry for people to stay on with the industry. Otherwise, people will drop off. You paid about $2.5 grand for a course, and then you go there and pay £800 or £700 as rent, and in 3 months you've lost. You're down by $5 grand because you made no clients, and you're still paying the rent, and obviously it's a big gap. But tell me, how do you manage the first 2-3 months? I think the key is, while yes, you can do a lot of onboarding, how do they get clients? I mean, this is something which is actually a mystery to me. How do I, as a personal trainer, so I do this course with you, you teach me everything, I walk into a gym which has got about 20 trainers, how do I sustain myself? I have to pay you £800 next month as my rent. How do I make that money? How do you ensure I'm successful?
Yeah.
What is it that you do which is different from probably a normal big gym chain?
Yeah. So first of all, I think from, if we go back to us doing the courses are actually taught by people that are active PTs. So they're qualified in education and training, they've done the level 2, level 3, they're active, successful PTs. The reason we did that, and I think obviously yourself and Brent have mentioned it before, you've gone out to try and find tutors and assessors, you get 15 that apply, 3 turn up to an interview and they're all like, I just want to get 125 quid on a Saturday for doing some marketing. It's like, brilliant, if that's what I'm left with. So we've again decided to go farm to table, go to our existing PTs, kind of scout out who we think would be suitable, offer them an opportunity, and then those that come forward, we would then kind of select the top 10.
I can't get my head around that comment you made. I remember Brent and I having a discussion. So Brent was interviewing somebody, and after everything, Brent's given the entire vision of the organization. This is what we want to do, this is what we want to do. The guy says, you know what, I want 125 quid and I'll do some marketing for you. That's my experience. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, but honestly, that's the kind of people you have.
And it's the standard that we've got that, there is, again, stories and things that, our academy director has actually seen and told us about is that people that, do freelance kind of assessing and marking have had stamps made. So that every single person, boom, 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 same feedback, pass them through just because they're getting paid per portfolio. So it's like bang, bang. And again, training providers are hiring these people and we just thought, we're not doing that. We'll pay slightly more than everybody else because we want to attract the right people. We believe if you're doing a good job, you should get paid. But then they have a realistic expectation of what it is to be a personal trainer. So like you said, everyone comes out and thinks, right, I'm going to earn $5,000. Yeah, good luck with that one. Like, you're not going to do that. Like, I managed to do, I think year 3, I managed to get to just under 7 in a floral town in Suffolk. But it took me 3 years to get there and I kind of developed everything over time. But again, it's one of those things where there's unrealistic expectations.
But who's setting these expectations, Aaron? And that's the problem. That's the question we need to answer.
Yeah, I won't name names.
I would name names. I don't have a problem.
No, because they already threaten people with lawyers, and I get angry when I get threatened. So yeah, and people listen to this that I know will get exactly. They will know exactly who those people are, and we will probably talk about it the day after it comes out, and we will laugh about it. But ultimately, there's a lot of PT business gurus and stuff like that. People that say I've generated £1 million. Well, we know you haven't. For a fact, we know that you haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been doing this for 15 years. No, you haven't.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite easy to go on Company's House and see what people are doing. Yes, you can fudge your numbers and all the rest of it, but you can't fudge it that much.
Yeah.
You earn £1 million, but you spend 700,000 on VAs and kind of marketing and stuff. You've not made anything.
Yeah.
And they're conning people into it because they, I always think, and I do say that personal trainers are targeted because they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
They're vulnerable because they're hungry for success because of what they see, and people are preying on that.
Yep.
I refer to it as the Jess Glynn effect, and I'll tell you what that means afterwards, not on here, but this is something that they don't believe, but they're preying on a group to kind of sell something, which is what Jess Glynn does, in my opinion. So it's something they don't believe in, they don't actually care about. As long as that money comes in, they don't really care what happens to the end person.
Yeah.
So they're not really bothered whether the personal trainer's paid that thing on their credit card to join this mentorship or whatever it is. They'll go and buy whatever they want to go and buy. And they'll lose money. And you hear about it all the time. We get sent DMs. I have friends that do coach and support PTs that get sent DMs to say, look, I've invested £12,000 in this mentorship, But then also they're going through these courses and they're learning from people that have never been personal trainers who are literally teaching and reading out of a book, or they're going online and going, you can earn £75,000 a year as a PT. Yeah, well, actually it might take you 3 years. You've got to work 40 hours a week and you've got to charge £45 an hour. By the way, your rent's going to be £1,000. You've got to live in central London, which is not cheap anyway. So actually, no, you won't. That will be your gross. And again, because they don't understand business, they don't understand the difference between net and gross, which I don't even think Richard Branson did at one point. I think that was quite a famous thing that he said before. But personal trainers don't understand that. And they're kind of led up the garden path a little bit. We are what we kind of tell them is nothing sexy. It's like, do you want to make a good living? Great. Do you know if you earn 35 grand a year, you're in the top 10% earners in the UK? No, I don't. Well, you are. So if you're working 26 hours a week, charging 30 quid an hour as a PT, be happy.
Yep.
That's really good. You're in the top 10% earners, not just in personal training, just in income in general in the UK. And you're working 26 hours in the gym. Yes, you'll probably do some programming and stuff like that, but you can do your social media outreach, you can do that at home, you can obviously do your programming at home, you can drop the kids off at school, you can go and pick them up afterwards, you can have dinner with your husband or wife every day. why is that not a good living? Why is that not a good lifestyle? And there's some that do want to achieve more and have nice cars and all the rest of it, and that's what they're pushing for. Great, wonderful, but just know that is like 7 people. And there is, 26,000 PTs in the UK alone? And sometimes those people are renting those cars, and it's not even theirs. So they're selling this dream that just absolutely doesn't exist. So we give them realistic expectations, and then we do hold their hand to agree, but when they start, but we coach them. So a bit like when personal trainers are coaching clients, you're not telling them what to do. You have to teach them to do it for themselves. So, you know, if you came to me and was like, I want to lose this amount of weight and I want to do it in this time, the first thing I would say, like, if you want to use 10 kilos in a week, give me an axe, give me your arm. That's the fastest way that you're going to lose 10 kilos in a week. It's the only way it's going to happen as well, by the way. So, and again, you can kind of have those jokey conversations and stuff like that, but the reality is that you need to kind of set expectations out for, it doesn't matter whether you're a fat loss client or you want to build muscle or a personal trainer that wants to generate a successful business. You've still got to be realistic. And, you know, being average and earning 20, you know, having 26 clients a week is not average. It's above average. The average PT, I think, has 22.3 clients a month. And that's 32 grand a year. Lovely. Should be happy with that.
Should be.
You're not going to earn that anywhere else in fitness, working 22.3 hours a week.
Absolutely.
You'd have to work 3 times the amount of that. That's being self-employed. Yes, you have overheads and all the rest of it, but there's other things that you can do.
But you have freedom. But you have freedom as well. You know, when you're
100%.
self-employed, you've got freedom. And I think the point that you spoke about, you know, people don't understand what's real and what's not. And thanks to social media and Instagram and people seeing other people making this kind of money, you know what, I have a friend of mine who makes, I've seen people say this, you know, I've got a friend of mine who makes 10 grand a month, stays in Dubai, doesn't pay any tax, drives a Lambo. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't, because we've seen what the life of trainers is in these countries. It's not as easy and good as it looks. Second, I also believe that the generation which is coming, and this is the problem for you guys to solve at the moment, because you're doing this for PTs. People have forgotten the concept of delayed gratification. You made a point, 3 years, it took you 3 years to hit 7 grand a month. After crafting for 3 years, you went there. Please tell me how many people will do it today. I'm telling you, that's the big challenge. The problem doesn't lie only with the industry. It lies with the fact that people have unrealistic expectations because they see unrealistic things. And I'm talking about, you know, in fact, today I was having a chat with Brent, and, you know, we're talking about some of the, you know, ex-PTs and all that. There are PTs who go on and work on themselves for a longer period of time and be successful. And then there are people who have highest possible expectations and just drop off the rails and then blame the entire world and the industry, you know, for being victimized, you know, and crying poverty, that I don't have anything, I've lost everything. And that's not the case. And the reason is your return is an investment. Your investment is your time and your learning. You're in an industry which is, you know, where you need to learn about people. You know, you're learning about different kinds of people. I think a good personal trainer, you know, over a period of time becomes so good with people skills. He can get himself out of any fucking situation in life because he knows. I mean, it's very difficult, you know, honestly, having clients ranging from 18 to 70 and everything in between, and being able to connect to them and understanding their lifestyle and remembering things. You know, one of the things people forget is when you go for a networking meeting, you know, somebody sees you once and sees you after another year. And he says, so example, you and I met once in Germany at FIBO, and next year we meet up and I say, hey Aaron, how are you? You'll say, what the fuck, man? The guy remembers my name. That's a skill set. Good personal trainers, I'm telling you, I know personal trainers who know what's, so if they're training the wife, they know the husband's name, they know the kid's name, they know the fuck if they have got dogs, they know if there has been a, you know, if that dog has had a litter. And it's that good. And that's just asking questions, because you got 1 hour with the person. How much do you absorb? How much do you keep with yourself? How much do you understand the client's lifestyle? Now, how do you ensure that trainers understand this is a part of their job and this is what is going to make them successful, not being just a good personal trainer?
Well, it's just what you just described as being a human being. Just getting to know somebody else, and, you know, learning their name is obviously a good start. But that's the one thing that, you know, the clients that I had, when they got their results, they didn't need me after that. Like my aim was to kind of teach them enough that they wouldn't really need me, because I'm like, well, if I keep them for a year, great. But I had some for 5, 6, 7 years, and they just kept coming back, and then it would be like, oh, I need to do, come round, and we'll, I'm having a kid, or you meet my wife and you know their dogs, and you meet their staff. All of a sudden, like, you know everyone that they're kind of working with, stuff like that. They all go to the same gym, and I've genuinely had clients that have kind of approached me in the gym and said, oh, I've got a wedding coming up I need to go to in like 6 months' time, and I want to get in shape, blah, 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 blah. So we've gone through it, sat down, done our consultation process, which at probably year 3 or 4 was just me sitting down chatting to them. I had no sales process. It was like, what do you want to do? Okay, so what does it look like when you get there? Okay, how does it feel? Right, now what do you want to do? What do you think you need to do in order to get to that point? It's like, well, I probably need to start training more than twice a week. I need to start. So like, a good coach does not tell people what to do. They go, well, what do you think you should be doing? And if they say something that is completely wrong, you don't say, no, that's stupid. You'll be like, look, what about this? Do you think this would work better for you? So you're actually asking them more questions than they're asking you. And that makes you a better personal trainer, a better coach, and obviously you're kind of almost mentoring them a little bit. But ultimately, those people are like further down the line, they'd be like, can I ask, like, why did you actually choose me? Because I know you're actually friends with that personal trainer over there. And it's like, well, you're actually the only one that says hello and smiles at me every day. So just saying hello and just doing the simple things. And I don't really have a resting face that smiles that much, so I must have been in good mood whenever I saw different people in the gym. I did terrible things, like I didn't have a profile board up in the gym for the first 2.5 years. So really, I just thought, that's what lazy people do. I'll go around and talk to people, so that's how they're going to know my name. But ultimately, some people might have been too scared to approach me. I'm not exactly like 5'2" and weigh nothing. So, and also I used to get told by my clients that I literally had "fuck off" written on my forehead when I was walking around the gym if I was tired after a long day. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, not really a strong sort of business model, not having marketing and advertising outside. But then a lot of it was referrals as well. So ultimately, what we're kind of saying to PTs is like, you do have to go and talk to these people. Like, the more people you speak to, the more people you interact with, the more comfortable you get, the more, no different from going to a bar, I imagine. Like, obviously when you go and speak to someone that you kind of find attractive, whatever it is, you're going to go and speak to 10 people, and 8 of them are going to tell you to do one. One of them will take a drink off you, and one of them might be mildly interested. So it's, right, how do I follow up with that? Where do I kind of read these body language cues?
Let's start making some notes here.
Don't take any notes off me, mate. So we're, understanding tonality and all that kind of stuff, which is why when we did the business course, we brought in a communications expert to actually explain that in a way that personal trainers understood, because he knew our business, he knew gyms, he knew personal training, stuff like that. So it made it easier for them to understand, and we relayed the information that we wanted to get across, but also give it, he would then be able to back it up with the science behind why this happens, or why this works, and what he's seen it happen in other areas. And that's the kind of biggest thing. It's not, yes, you're a personal trainer, and we talk about anatomy and physiology. It is boring.
Oh, fuck me.
But trainers have to know, to understand, if someone's got a specific goal, right, what movements do they want to go skiing, what movements does a skier do? Right, I'm going to go and watch a YouTube channel or something like that and go look at the movements, look at the bones, and what are the muscles doing, what ligaments are involved, what am I going to have to strengthen, what are the injury kind of potential they're going to have. The client doesn't give a toss about any of that, but you have to know that, and it is very, very dull. So 90% of your A&P book you are never going to use in your life. And the biggest example I always give is like, you need to understand that you turn your thumb in on a kettlebell swing because you have more pronatory muscles in your arm, and therefore you're less likely to have injuries, and you can rotate out in the top. Who cares? But you have to know that to prevent injury and prevent your client from kind of bending their wrist the other way and snapping it with a 25 kilo dumbbell going the other way, or a kettlebell. But it's boring. But you have to go through it. You have to not tick the box because you have to absorb the information, but it's not very exciting. But once that's in and you start putting that into practical application, that just kind of sinks in.
Correct.
And you'll get used to dealing, you'll probably deal with the same types of clients that have variations and injuries, but you need to know where to go and look, which manuals to go back to, which websites to go and check out, which other professionals to go and consult with, whether they're physios, osteopaths, whatever. And you need to be able to communicate with those people.
And also what you spoke about, continuously doing some CPD. So keep adding to yourself. So I think once you've done that A&P kind of a, the module and you understand everything and it's part of your life. The more you use it, the better you get at that. You don't have to go continuously. But I think the important aspect that a lot of trainers don't understand is it's not about that course that you've done. That's the start point for your career. After that, you need to start investing in CPDs. Do the right kind of courses.
It gets you the job.
Yeah, it gets you the job. That's it.
Yeah.
But for you to excel and to be differentiated, and I tell a lot of trainers this: don't do CPDs for those points. Do it for learning.
Yeah.
A lot of people are. It's like dotting the I's and crossing the T's. You know, just get those 16 points of CPD so that I can take. And that's ridiculous. You don't want them to do that. And they should choose wisely. There are so many courses available right now. How do you kind of? And I know that you do this. So if you could tell us, how do you help people shape their career, if somebody's been with you? And I know your average lifespan of a trainer in your organization is next to, I think,
it's like 2.5 years, which
is
like 4 or 5 times longer than the average. I
mean, I couldn't do that if I kidnapped somebody's kid, so it's not going to happen.
And obviously the more educated and the more experienced the personal trainer is, the more money they can charge, the more they earn, then ultimately the longer their career is going to be more sustainable. So the way that I kind of explain it with personal trainers, or anyone that's running a business, whether it's running a gym or they're a carpenter or whatever it is, it's ultimately, you're not really kind of running a business or doing anything to earn as much money as humanly possible in a short amount of time. Like the most successful ones are going to do, obviously they're going to compound, and over time it's essentially who can play the game for the longest. Because if you do that, you are going to be more successful than those that have had a really good 2 or 3 years and then it's dropped off because they didn't do anything to try and improve their situation. They just thought new sales, weren't worried about retention, wasn't worried about customer service or anything like that. So we kind of lay out to a personal trainer, so they do have regular check-ins, so they have unlimited mentoring. They can ring, text, within obviously reason. They can't ring up their mentors or their PT managers at 3 a.m. in the morning pissed up in the nightclub or whatever and say, all right, I need to get 3 new clients next week because I've just spanked a load in a casino. Like, it's genuinely like, these when they're available, we have kind of weekly roundtables. They're online, they're in the gym, because obviously we know we need to be flexible because some PTs are busier than others, some are just started out, some are more experienced. So they need different opportunities to be able to grow. So every 6, 12, 18 weeks, they'll go through like a review. They'll do quarterly reviews, biannual, and then they'll have a PDP, so they'll do a personal development plan. So they'll talk about like, what have you done this year? What has worked well for you? What do you need to continue doing? What hasn't worked well, probably stop doing that. But ultimately, what do you want to do next? So when we go through the interview process, we future pace with them. So we go, look, once you get to be an established PT, these are the opportunities that are available at your PT. So you can become a MyProtein ambassador, which obviously we work with MyProtein on their PT scheme. Then you can go on to be a tutor and assessor. You can then go on to become a PT support manager, which then leads you going on to potentially being a regional director, becoming a director or a shareholder. There's all these possibilities that you can go to. But now, because we have the education wing, you can go down that route as well. But they know what is in front of them. They can be a master PT, they can be running their own team of personal trainers. They know all of that on their first interview. They know what's available, and then obviously when they're sat down with their sort of their PT support manager or their regional PT manager, depending on who it is that day, someone they would have dealt with the whole time they've been with us as well, by the way, someone that actually recruited them. So from the start all the way through, they've built that relationship from stage one. We haven't got a recruitment manager that just then goes, you're going to be designated to that person. Like, it's the same person the whole time. When they're kind of going through that and they sit down with a personal development plan and they'll go, right, this is what I want to do next. Okay, well, how do you think you're going to do that? Okay, well, have you thought about this? Or, do you know what, this is actually a good idea. I really like that one. Do you know what, I've done this myself. And because all of our managers and all of our regional directors, and myself and James, are all experienced, successful PTs, we can help them avoid the pitfalls and go, do you know what, if you do that, if you do it this way, you might waste 2 or 3 months, but if you do this, you can avoid that and actually be a bit more purposeful in what you're doing, be more successful, waste less time, and just be a bit more proactive with what you're doing. So there's advantages to that. But obviously we have to keep, in terms of James and I, have to keep listening to the team, talking to the managers, talking to the regional directors, going, right, what are you seeing every day? What's changed? Because obviously James and I haven't PT'd for probably 7 or 8 years. So what's changed? What are you seeing? What are your trainers saying to you? What do you need from us? Tell us what you need. Do you need us to do something for you? Do you need us to kind of help develop something? Do you need us to kind of expand another area? Do you need us to, like, is it going to cost money? How much money does it cost? Like, what's your kind of business case for that? And we take that from our team because we trust that they know what they're talking about. Like, we've hired them for that specific reason, to go, right, you're going to be our eyes and ears, you're going to help the personal trainers. What are you seeing? Are you having difficulties in a particular area with a typical PT, or what's happened? And we kind of still spend that time with them. And if they need us to help them for 5 or 6 hours on a Friday, that's what we'll do. We don't kind of separate ourselves from it, because we can understand what their trainers are going through, and we can help them help their trainers, and we can kind of work on it together, and then obviously that then benefits the PTs. So if they're successful, then so are we. It's a pretty simple business model. We're just the only ones that seem to be able to execute it well enough to a certain degree.
The simplest things are the toughest to execute.
Yeah.
You know, where the problem, like I keep telling people say, you know, you have to be the first in the industry to do this, and you know, this is proprietary. Tell them, boss, somebody started Uber. Go fucking copy them.
Yeah.
Do it.
Nobody wants to be the first.
Yeah.
That's the one thing in the fitness industry we see, like, nobody wants to be the first, and we will. Yeah. So again, because there is no red tape where we are. So if one of our managers comes through and said, oh, I need this for, you know, whatever, or this personal trainer, or, you know, I'm trying to improve the marketing over here, and the gym said we can have this, I'll be like, yeah, cool, let's ring John, get that sorted out, get it sent down to the gym, we'll have some extra marketing done. Even like, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had the summer social, which obviously yourself and Brent obviously came to, and we had a regional directors meeting that morning. I went over what we've done in the year so far, what we think we'd like to improve on, and then just had a bit of a round table to go, right, you guys need to bring your own ideas. Did the same thing with the team the next day, and said, right, by the 24th or 28th, whatever it was, we want your feedback, your ideas and everything over to us, so we can sit on it, look through it, because there's some of them are going to cross over. And then the stuff that we're going to be able to do now and do immediately, which is going to give you some instant gratification with your PTs. There's some things that might take a little bit longer, and there's some that we might have to do some research on to see if it's actually entirely possible. It might be to do with tech or something, which is, nobody should get into tech or software, it's horrendous. So it's something we'd have to look into a little bit further. But we listen to them and we kind of empower them to go, right, you can now go back to your trainers and say this is available, and just get it done. And there's no, it needs to go to procurement, or it needs to go over here, and it's just, it's bullshit.
So this tells me something about your leadership style, the way you operate. You know, for young entrepreneurs who are building an organization, how do you deal with new problems? How do you deal with innovation? How do you deal with people issues, especially in your kind of industry, which is all about people? You know, what you're selling is, technically, if I were to put it in a nutshell, you're selling a system that works for the PTs and makes their life simpler. And on the other end of the spectrum, solves a problem for the gym, because the trainers are taken care of, they will take care of their customers. So let's try to make this, you know, more industry agnostic and not talk fitness. Your leadership style, how do you communicate with people? What kind of structure do you keep for that? And when you are faced with new problems, so say something that has never happened before, how do you deal with those? And what's the way of communication within your organization?
So communication is, we have an open door policy. It's like, even if you don't like the way that I've communicated or fed back something, tell me. I'm not going to get offended. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Like, tell me, and if it's going to help you, and if I can do something that can change or support you in the way that I maybe feedback or whatever it is. And you know, we've hired some administrators recently, and you know, I don't get involved in the recruitment process. We just set the job out and everything else. And the last point is, once they've been shortlisted and effectively the team's been picked, I'll speak to them to go, look, this is how we operate, these are our kind of company values, this is how we do things, this is what we're going to give you, and this is pretty much what we expect in return. That's all we ask. And by the way, how do you like to take your feedback, positive, negative, whatever it is? And if you don't know, can you figure it out and come and tell me? So we can actually understand, and obviously, you know, because some people you can be really open with, and very blunt and very black and white and very honest, and maybe I'll deal with that person that day. And there'll be other occasions where it needs a bit of a softer touch. I'll send James in. So he's lovingly referred to as the director of cuddles, because he's the kind of first person you go to. You know, if you kind of need a bit of support, and it's not an individual that needs a bit of a kick up the backside that day, then that's what James is there for.
Got it.
But what I will say is everybody in the organisation knows where they stand with both of us, and we make that very, very clear. So we even say to them, like, what can you do for us next year that's going to increase your stock value? So literally we could never get rid of you. What could you do? What can you come up with? And it will just make them think and go, right, how can I make myself more valuable to the organisation? So we want to keep you, we want to make you more valuable. So tell me what you can do. I'll pay you more for doing it if it's going to improve what we're doing, even 1% or anything like that. It's very, very open. I don't like to micromanage. Ultimately, over the last 3 years, we've had to do a lot of training and support for the managers to come through to do what James and I used to do for, you know, our full-time job, as it were. But that's very time-consuming. So it can't be a long-term plan where you're holding somebody's hand. You know, we kind of, if someone comes up with a problem, we go, look, that's a problem, right? Come to us with a solution first. If you just turn up with a problem, you're just going to have a bit of a bitch and a moan and a whine about something, cool, maybe that's what you need that day. Come to us, you can have 10 minutes, we'll put a timer on, job done. If you've got a problem and you don't come up with a solution, what do you want me to do? So come with a solution so we at least know you've thought about it, even if it's shit. Like, it doesn't matter if it is. It might be brilliant or it might need a little bit of tweaking, but come to us with a solution. And then obviously if it's not very good, we'll help you find one, we'll work with you, we'll do that as well. When we work with them, because of the way we deal with it and we kind of coach them to do it, we don't do it for them. We say, have you thought about this? What about changing it to this? They don't come back with the same problem twice. They've learned, they go away, they do it. And those are exactly the type of people that we were looking for, ones that have a willingness to learn, will pay attention, and then take accountability for whatever their role is in the organisation. And then what that does is it allows James and I to work on developing things. It opens up more time where we can expand the business, where we can start your academy, where we can look at new opportunities, where we can go to networking events, or we can go and do speaking engagement panels and talks and things like that as well, that is going to raise the profile of the company, maybe get us in front of some new potential operators that we want to work with, new suppliers that you know, we want to do some research papers with, we want to do some case studies with, things like that, that are again are going to benefit the business, give us more information, more data, so we can improve what we're doing. And that's because we now have such a strong management team. Even when we're recruiting PT support managers now, we go straight to the regional directors and go, right, you know how this role works, pick your top 10, and then we'll go and meet them for a coffee, and we'll kind of figure them out, make sure they're the right type of person. Do they fit in with our company values and how we do things, and how we like to treat one another, and how we act and what we do. And that's a simple thing. We just go for a coffee, and then the next stage is like, well, those 4 were really good. Let's do a proper interview with those 4. And then we'll narrow it down again. And then every time we come through that process, we end up with 2 or 3 great people, and that's what we're kind of essentially looking for.
I mean, I wish more business managers thought like this. You know, you're more like an HR person. You're a recruitment head's dream. You're a recruitment manager's dream, because you know what you want. I think everything that I hear from you goes back to the process of recruiting people on board. Get the right people who work in the organization. Yeah. Which also makes it easy to manage the organization. You know. I remember there's a very famous quote from Steve Jobs. He was asked, how do you manage people? He says, you can't manage people, man. You can't manage adults. They will do what they want to do. You have to just make sure that they're allowed to make their own mistakes, are given enough space. And I see that, you know, in a way what you're doing now is you make sure that you're having the right people. So have faith in the talent acquisition process that you got, recruitment process. Get the right people on board, and then give them opportunity to develop, and constant communication. I want to talk something about the industry per se now, and going into different geography. There are 2 emerging markets. You know, one is the GCC market, which is the UAE and the Saudi, and there's one India as a market which is growing. India obviously is close to my heart, because you know that's where I come from. What do you think is the future of you know, self-employed PTs? And I can tell you one thing for sure for India, and the same is happening in the UAE. A lot of very good trainers in India have become self-employed. They're freelancers. They either go to somebody's place or join a small tiny gym, because the large gyms are still not, you know, comfortable with freelancers for whatever reasons, you know, in the Indian market. In the UAE, it was more to do with the visa, but I know people now who are on freelancers visa and who kind of work with different gyms and work as freelancers. How do you see this? And this is your vision of how you see the market in the next 3 to 5 years within India and the GCC.
I don't think it's going to be too dissimilar to the way that we're doing things now. So the large proportion of the PT market here is self-employed, like over 80%, like 82.6, if we're going to be accurate to the last time we did anything.
82.6 for the benefit of, you know, people who are listening in the UAE and in India. So 82.6% of postal trainers in the UK are self-employed. They're not employed by a gym.
It's a very, very small group that are employed by the gym. And those are the ones that are underpaid, get annoyed, and then want to go self-employed, or they leave the industry and they don't stay very long. They're effectively glorified gym instructors in many people's opinion, including ours, because they're not treated very well. They're not doing any personal training. More often than not, they're kind of assigned a client, and then if they're not on shift or they're on holiday, that client gets assigned to somebody else. That's not personal training, that's not customer service, that's not coaching, that's gym instructing, in our opinion anyway. But it's not really where the markets are going to change, it's what actually the people want. So do the personal trainers recognize that they are going to earn more money? Yes. Do they get more freedom? Absolutely. How do they get that? Being self-employed. And there is always going to be this, it's probably some of the reason at the minute as well why some gym chains, and whether independents or kind of cluster or whatever, or whether they're national operators, why they still have an employed model. They know full well it doesn't work. You know, within 60 days, well, within 90 days, there's a big sort of premium, super premium operator that loses 60% of their PTs every 90 days. Clearly that system doesn't work. Everyone knows what they get paid. It's slightly more than a gym instructor, but they're expected to do everything, the sales, the consultation, all that kind of thing, and you're still paying them like somebody who just gets told what to clean machines and do gym inductions and stuff like that. It's not a fair exchange. So those people either leave the industry or go back in, but people don't like to lose control. And when they don't have control, they get frightened, which is fair enough. But come up with a system where I would say with our self-employed PTs, with obviously the employment law regulations, everything we have, the codes of conduct, how our trainers conduct themselves, how we kind of do everything, how fast we do everything, we probably have more control over our self-employed PTs in terms of the standards and how they act and how they treat one another than people do when they're employed by an organization.
So would you say you're creating a framework that people can follow for being successful? Is that what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so it essentially it almost regulates the personal trainers for the operator. So they don't have to think about, well, what if there's a complaint, right, well, we'll take care of it. By the way, there isn't that many when it comes to personal trainers. There's this kind of big thing where it's like, oh, personal trainers just sleep with their clients. I think in 15 years, I've heard of it twice. Not even within our organization. It's anecdotal, I don't even know the people. But apparently it happens all the time. But these things are they're just ridiculous. People falling off the back of treadmills and stuff. Doesn't happen. It might happen once every 15 years in a random place in York or something like that, that's because someone didn't get inducted properly or they're on their phone 9 times out of 10. They've done it themselves. But they're kind of afraid of obviously not having that control. They don't know what it will look like. They don't know what's going to come up ahead of them. And that's fair enough. Like, you're allowed to be scared. You're allowed to kind of maybe think, well, what's going to happen if? Like, well, sometimes you just have to be a little bit brave and kind of try things out. If it's going to be for the betterment of your organisation, if it's going to get you a better standard of personal trainers. By the way, the best personal trainers in the country are not employed.
Correct.
Because they know what their value is.
Correct.
So they work for themselves, or they run personal training studios, or they buggered off to Dubai and they're online coaches.
You look at the creative industry. Most of the creative guys, they freelance. They don't want to work for anybody. They don't want to work for a single organization. They say, we want to learn more, so we want our own flexibility. And this, I had a call today in the morning with Barry, who's the chair of World Active and CEO of Aus Active, and we were discussing, one of the aspects of how people have become so comfortable with work from home kind of a thing. Now, work from home is not only work from home, being at home. It's more to do with the flexibility per se. I want to be, I want to own my own time. I work for you, but I want to own my own time. And if I do a cost benefit analysis, I say, I'll take the risk, but I want some independence. I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to work for anybody. So as self-employed, you can do a lot more. And I've seen this trend in India where, back in the day, most of my top coaches in multi-fit, they've all gone their own way. Everybody who's worth his salt is now tried to become their own online coach and doing extremely well. Some people have set up a small boutique studio. That's because, like I said, in India it's still not started. But do you see this happening in India as well now?
Well, it's going to be an emerging trend everywhere, I think. In most places, you are self-employed. I think, obviously, the American market, they're mainly employed, but that's starting to change slightly as well.
It is.
You go over to Australia, people pay rent to a gym. Some of them are employed, some of them are part employed, part self-employed. Great, that's how we do things over here. That's what people want. That's what they're after. And people like, say, in the GCC and obviously Saudi and India, so they still see these other personal trainers and go, well, how are they earning this amount of money?
100%.
They work for themselves. Well, I want to do that. Why would you not? Like, I'm good enough. And I think if, you know, every kind of, in my front of friends and things like that as well, I say, if you love what you do and you're good at what you do and you're a hard worker, do it yourself. Go and be self-employed. Don't go and work for somebody else and let them kind of abuse the system and kind of get you to do all their hard work and pay you 30% of what they're going to be earning when you can do it yourself. If you're a hard worker, you obviously know what the plans are, and I offer to help people as much as they like. I can kind of give them a certain amount of advice on things, how to set up and what they should think about doing and how they should do it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know anything about their industry, but business is business at the end of the day.
Correct. Absolutely.
If you're good at what you do, you're not going to do it for free. You don't have to overcharge people. But if you're getting a set wage, even if you charge half the price of what your old company was, you're still earning 3 or 4 times what you were earning before.
Obviously, yeah.
So why would you not do it? And I know several guys.
Is it lack of
girls,
confidence? Is it lack of self-belief, you think?
I would say there's obviously limiting beliefs in a lot of people. Personal trainers are very guilty of that. They sometimes don't believe that they're good enough, or it's like, well, it didn't work the first time I did it, so I'm not going to try it again. If I did that, I wouldn't be doing anything. And I suffer from many things, and one of them is perfectionism, as then my therapist tells me. That basically, and I can spiral if it's not 100% correct. Yeah. And then when I do get it correct, I'm like, well, how can I make it better? How can I make it better? That 1%, 2%, what is it? How am I going to get there?
How do you handle a failure? I mean, this is something I've been wanting to ask you, because
I don't.
Obviously I've known you for some time now, and I've seen, you know, that you are a perfectionist. You know, most people in the industry also believe so.
Yeah.
How do you handle failure? And I'm sure you've had multiple failures in your life. All of us have.
Yeah.
How do you manage something like that, especially considering you're a perfectionist?
I never used to manage it very well. So I would spiral very, very quickly. So something very small would bother me for 2 or 3 weeks, and it would just sit in the back of my mind, like I wouldn't sleep and all that kind of stuff. I'd be like, well, I can't believe I fucking did that. Like, well, I need to change this, or maybe I should have done that. And I will ultimately obsess over it. And it would be, it's unhealthy, but it's for a weirdly healthy reason. That I do want to get it right, and I do want to kind of do a good job. And sometimes I don't believe that I can do a good job. And most people I know that run businesses, or they're kind of successful or anything like that, they believe that they get everything good. So everything they're good to get, they're like, I deserve it. But there's also a crippling anxiety where they just think, I'm not fucking good enough to do anything. Like, they make a mistake and go, well, you know, I've lost this, or I've lost that, or some of our guys as well, they'd be like, our personal trainer's leaving because, you know, their mother's unwell and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, it's like, what are you going to do about that? His mother's unwell, like, it's fine, like, he's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
That's not your fault, but you will blame yourself. So there's an element of that, and the things that I've kind of learned in terms of how I manage that and what I believe is in my control and what isn't. Could I have affected it? Could I have done anything about it? Could I have stopped it? So I might spiral still for about 15, 20 minutes. It's not 3 weeks, which has, you know, other effects outside of that. But yeah, 15, 20 minutes, and I still kind of, I do want to get it right. And I do want to get things right first time, but I now understand after many, many years that isn't always going to happen. And the negative effects it has on you and your mindset, and it kind of like, if you allow that to kind of stop yourself from doing anything in the future, you're never going to get anything. So if you don't have, and we kind of work with Emma and Dr. Glenda as well, and they talk about resilience quite a lot. If you don't have that resilience and the attitude of, you know, I think we deserve everything that we get. So if we do a good job, why aren't we more successful? Why can't we do other things? Why can't we branch into other areas? If we're good at this is a parallel opportunity. We can learn about it, and we will go and be good at that as well, because we know we can be, but we will still fuck it up along the way at some point. Like, we're consistently changing things and updating things, and it's not through, because it doesn't work, it's like, well, we can make that like 1% better. And the stupid analogy that I kind of give to the team, I'm like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So like the guy who invented the hamburger was great, but the guy who invented the cheeseburger was a fucking genius. And all he did was add a layer of cheese. And sometimes that's literally all you've got to do, is like that little one thing that can make that better, can change everything that you're doing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it is very difficult to kind of manage failure. I'm a lot better than I was at it. I was terrible at celebrating wins. I didn't. And then when people tell me the same thing.
Yeah, that's a big problem with people who, I think being a perfectionist is excellent, but it comes with its own kind of toll on your mental health, because it kind of, makes you think. And I can give an example of Brent. I kind of constantly talk to him about one thing, which is, if you hire somebody to do a job, you don't expect everybody to be at your level. You can't get wound up.
It's unfair.
Yeah, you can't get wound up for, saying that, it's not up to that mark. Obviously, it's not. You took 10 years to get here. That person is going to take 10 years. But because you're a perfectionist, you want to get involved in everything. You made a very good statement. You said, I don't micromanage. Now, being somebody who's a perfectionist, which you are, and not being able to micromanage, actually makes you feel you're fucking out of control.
Yeah.
How do you manage this situation?
Well, I trust everyone. I have to. And I do completely, because I kind of, you relinquish a little bit of control, a little bit of management, and you're like, nothing's got fucked up today. We're 2 days in, nothing's got fucked up. And I can go on holiday and not worry about things and not have to look at my laptop, and that's literally the progression that I've seen over the last 3 or 4 years.
Fantastic.
Is I don't have to look at my laptop while I'm away, because nothing's going to happen. And I know that if it does, they know how to deal with it. So I can come back and they'll go, well, this happened while you're away. I'm like, oh, is that it? They're like, yeah, brilliant. All right, see you Wednesday. And it took a while to get to that point. And like you say, when things don't go right and you don't believe that you're good enough, like you can get a level of, so for probably about 18 months, 2 years, again, I had kind of a high functioning anxiety. So everything, I thought I was shit at everything. Like I would do something, it didn't work perfectly. I was like, you fucking idiot, like that's not gonna work. And then I'd come out of it like a day later and be like, what are you going on about, you prat? Like, you've done this, this, and this, just sit there. And my friends would be like, just sit there for a second. And look what you've done in the last 2 years. That's not fucking normal.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, should probably have a beer. And then it would literally, the next day I'd be like, right, I'm on to the next thing. I'm looking at the advancement. And we do, whenever we're kind of doing anything, especially with your PT, we've been doing it for a long, long time. And, even people that we work with and obviously people in the organisation are like, oh, we know it's a little bit boring, but I'm like, but we're passionate about it and we like it. I know we're doing the same thing every day, but we're improving it. And, when we go into a new area where, if we go into a region where we don't have some gyms, we still get applications and we're like, we can't help that PT. That PT is now going to be a lamb to the slaughter because they're going to go and work for that organisation. In 4 weeks' time, they're going to be out of the industry. We kind of, as a group, take that a little bit personally. And I'm like, well, my job would be to go and see if we can find something in that area, find a gym partner that will actually be a partner, is going to have facilities that what we deem are kind of good enough for personal trainers and exciting and attractive enough for them. And then it's my job to try and go and work with those people. Now, most of our work comes from kind of referrals and stuff like that. But when we have those gaps of one of our team that says, look, I've just had 15 applications from like Derby or Nottingham, and boss, I can't give them anything. And they're just like, but they're fucked. It's like, right, well, who's around that area? Like, go and find me some, gym operators in that area. Go and look at some clubs that you want to go and talk to. And if I have to still go and do some cold outreach, which we still do every now and again when we know we're trying to fulfill a demand, and we honestly just go up to them and say, look, we've seen your facilities. We know you don't have any personal training there. We get a lot of demand for this area. This is what we can do. Are you available next week? And we'll do it on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And I'm just completely shameless. Like, I don't give a toss. They might just say, no thanks, we're all right. And some do. And that's absolutely fine. Like, no one's going to hate them for it. I don't take it personally. I used to be like, oh, fuck you. And then, but now I'm just like, well, there's going to be somewhere else because I have a list. Yeah. Or I know somebody that's going to make an introduction to a gym operator because they're like, actually, do you know what? Your PT can provide you with a solution there, and I think he can help you out. And sort of they then look good because they're helping their client solve a problem that they don't really know where to look. And weirdly, despite all the industry is a small place, obviously everybody knows everybody, we still get some of the UK and Europe's largest gym operators fill out an inquiry form on our website to say, like, can you help us recruit PTs? Like, absolutely, we can. However, this is how we do things, and how do you do things, and is there a crossover here? Can we support you in one way or another? And there is a lot of barriers because the solution that we provide for a lot of operators means that 7 or 8 people in that organisation are obsolete.
Yep.
Nobody wants that.
Yep.
And in a lot of industries, not just ours, as long as there's a problem, there's people in jobs.
100%.
So if there's 10 problems and they solve one, oh, great, I'm in a job. And I can solve another one next year, but then there'll be 4 more. So they'll be in a job for 20 years solving problems that don't fucking matter and don't do anything. Whereas we can solve 50% of them in 12 months and then the other 50% in the following 18 months, and then that's it, they're done. They're not losing money, they're not kind of spending any money on recruitment, they're retaining personal trainers longer. And that's just, it's a wild place to be. But ultimately, it's one of those things where every time we do get a knockback, we're just like, well, you're still a competitor ultimately now. And if you're not on our team, that's bad for you. It's like the Michael Jordan effect, right? It's just like, if you're not on our team, I'm going to power through.
So, last question for you. Your 2 bits for personal trainers were just about starting a career and are not fortunate enough to work for you because they're not in a place where you operate. But what are the 2 bits you would want to give to people, personal trainers across the world who are listening to this?
When they're looking for a job, it's a bit like picking a partner. What do you want in that partner? What are you going to do? If you're going to spend your next 10 years with a person or next 10 years working in a gym, what do you want from that gym? What do you want from that career? And literally have like a little wish list. And no, you're not going to get 100% of things, but if you get 80%, you should be happy with it.
So what kind of things should figure out in this wish list? If you were to put a couple of things, so say I'm a brand new personal trainer. When you say, and the reason I'm asking this question, I see so many personal trainers graduating just fresh out of a course. They really don't even know what they want. So how do I kind of try to figure that out?
Well, it can be anything from a finance point of view. Do you have bills? Everyone does. If you have kids, a family, all that kind of stuff. What job is going to be better? Do you need a little bit of security as well as the opportunity to be able to advance and earn more money long term? So you might go for a position that is employed 15, 20 hours a week, which we do a lot of with probably about 90% of our operators. And then outside of those hours, they're a self-employed PT, and they will get everything that we do with a full-time self-employed PT, we give to a part-time one. So the plan is to get them to a full-time trainer as soon as humanly possible. So within 6 months, 44% of the PTs that are on that model go full-time.
That means they become self-employed completely.
They become self-employed completely. Nobody else in the industry is even coming anywhere close to that because people don't even last that bloody long, never mind kind of make it full-time.
Tell me about
so
it.
What do you want to do? Do you want to go self-employed straight away? Do you want to be kind of, doing gym inductions? Are you confident enough to be able to go and interact with people? Do you need training? What do you need training in? What organisations are going to offer you that mentoring and support? So some of the things that we get to hear is like, what have you been offered from such and such gym? Well, the general manager said I could have his phone number. Okay, great. Was he hitting on you? Like, what was the objective to that? Oh no, he was a PT for 6 months. Okay, great. I went to the zoo last week. Now I'm a panda keeper. Like that, it's not the same thing, right? So it's what do you actually need from when you go into what are they going to do for you? And by the way, personal trainers now. It happens all the time. It's always there's a PT problem. It's like a sexy thing to kind of talk about, and everyone's like, we do this, we do that, and you go to various panels at events and stuff like that. And the people talking about these things outside of your PT and a couple of other places that we do, like Jubilee Hall Trust, do a really good job with their PTs on their internal model. But people are talking about, this is what we should do for personal trainers, and I'm like, your gym's one of the worst culprits. You've never been a PT, and you have no idea what you're talking about. The things that you're saying just are not. Who chose these people? But that's the way that's the thing.
And that's the industry people are going to get into. So they have to make sure that they are taking care of themselves, because a lot of times they will not be taken care of. They're just a statistic. There's just another employee. Nobody is wanting them to be successful. And I've seen multiple organizations do this. Where you hire a personal trainer and then after 2 months say, he's a fucking idiot because he's not getting any PTs. But what have you done to get him PTs? Neither is the system prepared for it. The system is busy running the operation, so nobody's helping the personal trainer to get PT clients. And I mean, I'll say I was guilty of that as well. When I started my, I used to just say, hire trainers who can get PTs. It doesn't work like that. You have to work with them. So you're right. I mean, a lot of times the personal trainers would themselves need to look at how to shortlist an organization where they are going to join in and write a wish list. And one of the things that you again said, very important, which organization is going to put in time, effort and money in training me to be successful? Because you've got the basic skill sets, but how do you get money is extremely important.
And it's one of those things where you have choices. So every gym is looking for PTs. So we're told. Everyone's trying to solve the problem, but nobody's doing anything about it. So where do you want to go? And a lot of PTs, they come off their courses, they get excited, and someone offers them a job. Again, some operators are literally their interviews from their GMs. Again, they may have never had any recruitment training, any HR training, and stuff like that. So can you blame them fully for being rubbish at recruitment? Probably not. There is some accountability on the organisation for that as well. But ultimately, they'll kind of walk around the gym and go, well, we've got this and that. So what shift do you want on a Monday? And that's their recruitment policy, 15, 20 minutes in. And we do send our team in to go and do those, and we go, right, how are they doing it? See if we can learn from them and go, are they doing anything that we're not? It's like, not really, I got offered a job 15 minutes ago, but I've been here 20. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, actually, if that's the case, you can score them. So out of 5, like, how many personal trainers are in there? Go and speak to a PT that works for that organisation. Go onto the website, go and look at, have they had any reviews? So if you go onto our newsfeed and our blog, we've got, all the personal trainers on there. We get testimonials, reviews. We have good news stories. We have PT of the month, PT of the year. We ask our PT, so our PT of the year, Ray Miller, is doing a blog series that is designed for personal trainers. So what's it like being a personal trainer? What's it like being a female personal trainer? Because that is very different from being a male trainer or anything else. How did you choose your course? How did you choose where you went for your career? What's it like being a personal trainer at your PT? All these things, and we just say, look, write whatever you want, and then we'll build it together. And we've not had to change anything. So the way that she talks about her mentor, about her choice, about what she was doing beforehand, what course she chose and why she chose it, and actually she didn't make the best choice of choosing courses, so she gives different advice to what she kind of gave to herself on that one, because she's learned. And that's really important. She's only been in the industry probably 18, 19 months, but the stuff that she can give back is people that are going to be in her position or want to be in her position, where they're doing 40 hours a week after 12 months of being a PT, they're starting boot camps, they're becoming personal trainer of the year and being invited to events and socials and being asked to write blogs and being given all these opportunities. What did she do to get there? And the stuff that she talks about is the stuff that we talk about, is listening, engaging with your clients, not always beasting them in the gym. Sometimes they might just have a cry for 15 minutes and then they're probably going to have the best session of their life because they've got something out, and then they can go and use that energy. So all of these things, everything they're kind of looking at is not just picking where they're going to go to work, it's picking where they're going to do their course. Where do they want to end up in 10 years' time? Do they want to be a personal trainer until they're 65? Some people do, some people don't. Do they want to go eventually to go to online personal training? What's that kind of career path going to look like? What are you going to learn from this organisation that's going to take you to that point? Or do you want to be a coach and also mentor other personal trainers? You want to help people become successful if you're able to do that, and you want to pass that knowledge on. And look at that. And again, when you go to a lot of interviews, do you really, if you go for a job interview as a gym instructor, do they then tell you what the next 5 years looks like? No, I wouldn't. I've never heard of it. It's something that we do talk about, and what qualifications do you need to get those jobs? So you can almost have a little bit of a look and go, well, actually, do you know what? I wouldn't mind being a personal trainer, so I need to go and do that qualification next, and that'll take me 8 months to do, but I can work as a gym instructor and build up some experience. So when I'm ready to be a PT, my communication skills are built up. I've been working in the environment. I'll get to know the members, all that kind of thing, and then maybe I can go on to be a fitness manager. So that's what I want to do next, and I want to go into operations, or I want to go self-employed. But they don't know what that is. They don't know what that pathway looks like. So they have to kind of design it for themselves and go, well, what do I want to do? What are my obligations? Have I got a family? Have I got a mortgage? Do I want to move to Australia in 5 years' time? What do I have to do over here to then become a PT over there? So there is a lot of thinking to do, not taking the first job that you get offered as well, because it's always exciting. And you go, I've got offered a job, and you've got 7 more interviews. You've got options. They're not going to go away. We have limited spaces, but every other gym will just take as many as they can humanly possibly get, because they just think, right, if we chuck enough at the wall, something's going to stick. So we'll take everybody that comes through and we'll see what happens. And some people get lucky and some people don't. But you have got options.
We used to say this in India, trespassers will be recruited, and that's what's happening in the gym industry. So on that note, thank you so much, Aaron. As always, wonderful to talk to you. And I think people would have taken a lot of good small nuggets of learnings from you as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's a leader in the fitness industry, a thought leader in terms of what's happening in the personal training industry. Really appreciate this time today. I know you woke up at 3 in the morning, trained, and after that,
I tagged you so you knew about it as well.
Yeah. Just to tell me, you asshole, I'm awake
just to
since 3
show
in
you
the
that
morning.
I'm better than you. Yeah.
Be there in time. Thanks so much, Aaron.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers.